All right, if you want good running form on hills, you should watch this video. This is my second attempt after this, after Winston was naughty and would not stop barking at me. Hi everyone, my name is Steve Gons, a physical therapist with Run Smart. One of the big questions I always get is like, how does my run form change on hills? I struggle on hills, or I really see a lot of flaws that people try when they're trying to change their form, and they end up they just don't know how to handle an uphill or a downhill. So I want to just clear the air for that. Real quick before I show you this. This is one of the things that we teach in the Midfoot Project. It's a 5-week boot camp where we transform your running, improve your foot strike, so you can run faster, so you can break less, so you can figuratively and literally break less with less injuries. So if you're interested in joining us on April 4th for 5 weeks for our only live boot camp for the Midfoot Project this year, click on the link below, early bird pricing, or the program's about to close depending on when you watch this. So hopefully you can join us. But what I want to cover is, like I talked about, hills. So before I even, this is actually, because this is my second attempt, I know where I want to go better with this, but what I want to show you is this. So if we say this is your pelvis, here's your front leg coming down to hit the ground, and here's your back leg. Let's say you just pushed off and you're running this way. One of the big things that we always talk about, make sure I'm in frame here. Perfect. One of the big things I always talk about is really what you're trying to avoid in your run form is this kind of leg position where the leg is coming down and the leg's perfectly straight, the knees straight, the ankles pulled up, and the toes are pulled up. But what ends up happening with that is you get a huge braking force where that force of the ground's coming up and pushing you backwards. So if you're on a level ground of running, that all your weight's sitting back here and your contact points out to the front, and there's just nowhere to go. In fact, if I ask someone to stand up, I always do this when I see this in a run form, when someone runs this way, and a lot of people run this way in varying degrees. If you try to stand up and hold this position, straight leg out to the front, you pick your back leg up, you're always falling backwards because you can't have your mass behind this contact point that far. So what we really want to do and focus on, and this is really what we do in the Midfoot Project, is teaching people how to safely and effectively get their foot to stop swinging through and get to a more neutral position at landing. This does a couple things. It stops those horrible braking forces. It actually increases your shock absorption so you can absorb the ground force a lot better. But this is how it would look on level ground running. You're really looking for that perpendicular, to the ground shin. And that's going to allow you all the things I just mentioned. Shock absorption, less braking forces. The ground force is going to be pushing up, not so much backwards. So let me grab my eraser here. But how does this change on hills, right? So just before I forget, and if you're just joining me, there's a link in this post to the Midfoot Project. This is pretty much what we teach everyone how to do to clean up their foot strike, to run more efficiently, to improve their run form. It's a 5-week boot camp that starts in April. If you want to join us, there is a link in this post to check it out. So what I like to do in this situation, whenever I describe like what should you do on uphills or downhills, is I like to just erase the ground and tell people, your run form, particularly for a foot strike, does not change whether you're running uphill or downhill. Your run form is going to stay the same, but what you contact will change. So let's think about that for a second. If this runner who has a really short leg here, let's just make that longer, is running downhill, and let's just give him a little bit of a grade coming down. So on a downhill, what ends up happening is you do heel strike first, but the leg position never changes. That heel strike is going to have to happen. Too often I see people like doing one of these jobbies where they'll point their foot down the hill, and not only do they smash their toes into the front of their shoe, but they really overload their calf, and that's not what we're looking for. The foot should stay neutral. You should still have this perpendicular angle at the foot and ankle and the straight knee. And what's going to happen is it's going to allow you to spin into the ground. You're going to hit your heel first and come down. A really bad situation is when, and I know a lot of runners that do this, in fact, most runners who think they don't heel strike still heel strike, and this is what they do on downhills, which is way magnified, is they'll still have that leg straight out to the front, so now they have all of the force of just running normally, which is 3 to 5 times their body weight. Now you have gravity that's chopping the ground out from underneath you, and you go into that ground super hard. That creates a massive braking force, so we don't want to see that. So your run form's not going to change. You're going to heel strike on a downhill because you're not going to change your position of your leg. It's still going to be the same exact position whether you're running down a hill or flat. What does it mean on uphills? It means the exact same thing. Your foot position doesn't change. If we put this runner on a little bit of an uphill, what's going to happen is, I still somehow, it still blows my mind somehow to see how many people can still reach and heel strike on an uphill, because that, like just think about this for a second. If your foot strike is not on point and you're running uphill and you still overreach, now you really have a lot of force, like really throwing you back down the hill. So what we want to do in this situation is, if you can learn to have a proper foot strike, the foot's going to still stay in the same position, but look what happens now. You're going to get that toe strike when you are running uphill. Your run form stays the same. It doesn't matter if you're flat, you're downhill, or you're uphill. This picture right here never changes. And this is critical. This is where we always start with our runners, is to learn how to master that front end of your stride, because it's going to set up the rest of it. You need to make sure you're doing the right exercises, the right stretches, because when you do these changes and you learn to run this way, you're going to start loading different areas of your body. You're going to start finding a little bit more spring. You're going to land on your muscles and your tendons a little bit more. So learning this is partly exercise, it's partly drill, it's partly reinforcing it with the training, but it pays off huge. And for the question of how does it change when you run up or downhill, it doesn't change. Your run form stays the same, and just the way your body impacts it changes. So if you're interested in joining us for the Midfoot Project, please take a look at the link in this post. Either early bird pricing is going away or the program's closing, depending on when you're seeing this. So hopefully you get to join us. We only run it once a year. Check out midfootproject.com, the link in the post, and hope to see you join us this year. All right, everyone, have a great night. No dog barking at me this time. Woo! Bye.